الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا إنا أعتدنا للكافرين سلاسلا وأغلالا وسعيرا إنا أعتدنا للكافرين سلاسلا وأغلالا وسعيرا إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نظرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تظليلا ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أصاور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا فاصبر لحكم ربك ولا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا ومن الليل فاسجد له وسبحه ليلا طويلا إن هؤلاء يحبون العاجلة ويذرون وراءهم يوما ثقيلا نحن خلقناهم وشددنا أسرهم وإذا شئنا بدلنا أمثالهم تبديلا إن هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيلا وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما يدخل من يشاء في رحمته والظالمين أعد لهم عذابا أليما صدق الله العلي العظيم.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمن محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا یا ابا الحسن یا علی ابن الحسین یا زین العابدین ابن رسول اللہ یا حجت اللہ علی خلقہ یا سیدنا و مولانا انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلق
محمد و آل محمد.
ایک دفعہ مزید درود پڑھ دیجیے محمد و آل محمد. ایک سلام مولا امام جعفر صادق علیہ السلام کی خدمت میں پیش کرنا چاہوں گا. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. ہائے حسین کہہ کر آنسو بہا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. تابوت کو اٹھا کر جتنے قدم بڑھائے، ہر ایک قدم پہ ان کو سجاد یاد آئے. عابد کی بے بسی کا نوحہ سنا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. ایک بار درود پڑھ دیں محمد و آل محمد. منصور نے غزہ میں زہر جفا دیا تھا، مظلوم کے بدن پر جس کا اثر ہوا تھا، افلاک سے ملائک پرسے کو آ رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. نکلا دہن سے باہر ہائے جگر جو کٹ کر خون رنگ ہو گیا تھا مولا کا میرے بستر، منظر یہ اہل دل کے دل کو دکھا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ، حیدر سے دشمنی یہ اب تک نہیں رکی ہے، مولا حسن سے لے کر جعفر تک آ گئی ہے، ہر ایک چراغ زہرا ظالم بجھا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ،
Ahsan, Jazakallah. For the elevation of the rewards and status of all the mu'mineen, please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. Alhamdulillah, we are blessed that we have our respected Syed Jari Haider among us here to address the majlis. Before we call him, I request everyone to please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all the marhumeen. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah. Now I request our respected Sayyid to please come on the mimbar and address the majlis. For the early reappearance of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
تھوڑا سا پر تھوڑا سا یہاں پہ قریب کر، ٹھیک ہے ٹھیک. رحم اللہ من قرأ الفاتحہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الغر الميامين، ولعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الإمام الصادق عليه الصلاة والسلام: علمنا غابر مزبور. صدق مولانا الإمام الصادق عليه الصلاة والسلام. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we start our majlis, we'll like to raise our hands and give the wasila of Ali Muhammad alayhimus salam and ask for our hajat, ask for the supplications that we have, and especially considering the Imam of this night, Imam of this evening, that we will be commemorating, Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. We give the wasila bihaqqi Fatimata wa abiha wa ba'liha wa baniha, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we all are here to commemorate the martyrdom anniversary of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. And of course, we do have a lot of hajat that we have related to this world and related to the hereafter. Ya Allah, please fulfill all of those hajat. Ya Allah, our marhameen and our loved one used to be part of these majalises. Unfortunately, they are not with us anymore. And one of the most important volunteer in one of the Hussainiya in Toronto, he just died like a couple of days before. Sajid uncle, please remember him in your prayers too, that may Allah elevate the status of our marhameen and may Allah forgive all of their sins, inshallah. And one of the most important dua is the reappearance of Imam Sahibul Zaman. Ya Allah, please hasten the dhuhur of Imam Sahibul Zaman. Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So of course, tonight, wanted to talk a little bit about life of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. But before I do so, I want to make a little bit introduction. Then inshallah we'll move on to the topic. And then introduction is that generally in our lives when we see people, we do have a lot of scales through which we would respect people. You know, some of the scale would include that if someone is really, if someone has a really high social status, the respect comes automatically with the higher social status, right? So imagine someone who is not good in ikhlaq, who is not good in his deen, but since he would have, like, let's suppose 100,000 followers on YouTube, or he would have 1 million followers on Twitter, then of course the respect for that person would be a little bit different compared to the respect for an ordinary person. That's a really common thing, right? So our scale of giving respect sometimes depend upon how famous a personality is. That's one way of giving respect. The second way of giving respect might be that what is our lineage, right? And mashallah, I can say, because I am coming from that lineage, and I can criticize those people that would try to get respect because they are from Sadat. That's it. They can do whatever they want to do in this world, but the only good thing that they have is that they are coming from the lineage, from the holy lineage of the Prophet. Right? So, mashallah, if you go to some of the rural areas, even the urban cities in Pakistan and India, you would come across people taking advantage just because they're Sayyid. Maybe they might not be in the best affections. Right? So this is another way of extracting respect for yourself. Of course, I do believe that being a Sayyid carries itself some sort of respect if it accompanies with right aqeedah and right action. Right? That's why you have the famous saying of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam that says, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Wilayatu li Ali ibn Abi Talib khayrun min wiladati minhu. That me being follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen, me being someone who believes in the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen is superior to me, has more importance to me than me from his progeny. لأن ولاية علي بن أبي طالب واجب وولادتي منه فضل. That I believing in his wilayat, I believing in the imamat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, this is something which is made obligatory on me by Allah Almighty. But me being from his progeny itself is a virtue if I have the right wilayah and the right action. Right? But my point is, sometimes you will try to extract respect for yourself through your lineage. And mashallah, you go to Iraq, sometimes he's from this family, he's from this family of Maraji and this. He can do whatever he wants, but he's from a really holy family sometimes. You would see that, right? So that's the second way. Inshallah, I'm going to connect my topic, inshallah, really soon. The third is sometimes someone might be really financially strong. And that financial strength that the person would have automatically means that he would get more respect. Imagine sometimes Maulanas are being told, Alhamdulillah, I have never been told by any center or any person. But sometimes Maulanas are being told that, Maulana, please don't speak on this topic because the person who is financing this majlis might not like it. Isn't it? So, message is not more important, but the financial condition of a person is more important than his ikhlaq, than his aqidah. Right? So we do have some of our man-made scales or measurement through which we would give respect to certain people. So now I connect it to the Imam that I'm going to speak tonight, which is Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. When you talk about Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, I would like to speak a little bit about the spiritual status, the merits that are being given to him by Allah Almighty. Then I would connect it with some of the ikhlaq that he has shown that is not quoted by Shias, that is quoted by non-Shia sources, by non-Shia narrators. Inshallah, with this first riwayah that I want to quote, because I want to give an introduction. We already went for an introduction. I want us to understand that our infallible masters, our imams, in spite of being given such a lofty position by Allah Almighty, their ikhlaq was something that everyone, including non-Shias, wanted to follow, the way they used to react and the way they used to act. Right? Reflect on this point sometimes. You know, I might be a person that would come on this mimbar and start thinking about myself as something. But imagine the greatness that our infallible masters had. Let's go with one of the riwayah of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, where he says, Inna indi la sayfa Rasulillah. Verily, I am the person of this time when he was during his tenure of his imamat. He said, Inna indi la sayfa Rasulillah. I am the one that has the sword of Rasulullah with me, the weapon of Rasulullah with me. Inna indi la ra'yata Rasulillahi al-mighliba. And I am the one that carries the standard, the banner and the flag of the Prophet that would always be a source of victory for the Muslims. Mighliba, a source of a victory. Mighliba, someone who has gone through ilm al-sarf would know, or ilm al-nahaf would know that ilm, like the word that I'm using is what? Mighliba. Mighliba comes with the root word which is mif'al. Babi mif'al. Mif'ala is the, should I say, the feminine form of it. The masculine form is mif'al. It says mighliba is a way through which the victory used to be achieved. Let's suppose you go and ask anyone and you ask them, what do you call keys in Arabic? What do you call? Miftah. Miftah is again on the same wazn as mif'al. Mighliba. So what does Imam say? Imam said, I have the flag. And by the way, this is the same flag that Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib used during his caliphate too, when he went for the war against the people of Basra in Jamal, the people of Sham in Siffin, and Khawarij in Nahrawan. In all these three battles, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam had the tabarrukat, had the belongings of the Prophet. He wanted to show who is representing Prophet and who is coming against the progeny of the Prophet. Right? Then Imam continued, Inna indi at-tasht alladhi kana Musa yuqarribu bihal qurban. That I have the container, I have that basin, I have that plate that Musa alayhi salatu wassalam used to use when he would slaughter the animals or when he would sacrifice the animals for the sake of Allah. Even Judaism, as you see today, they have the remnants of sacrificing the animal for the sake of God, even till this day. They do it, right? So this is something which is practiced in Judaism. It is something which is practiced within Islam too. So third thing, then he says, Inna indi al-ism الذي إذا وضع رسول الله بين المسلمين والمشركين لم يصل المشركون إلى المسلمين نشابة. And I have that ism, I have that name, I have that designation of Allah Almighty that Prophet used to use when Muslims and polytheists would come and fight against each other. And when Prophet would use that ism, when Prophet would use that designation, then the polytheists, they were not even able to come and attack Muslim to a length of an arrow, nushaba. Mullah is talking about the spiritual status that is given to him. Inna indi lamathal alladhi ja'at bihil malaika wa salahun fina kamathal tabut inda bani Israel. That I have the examples of the things that were given to the previous prophets, and the example of having the weapon of the prophet with us is the same example that the coffin used to be with Banu Israel. You know, Banu Israel in the old days, they used to have that coffin that used to protect them from so many calamities. Mawla said that if you want to know who is the righteous Imam, and who is the Imam who is infallible, and who is the Imam that is worthy to be followed, these are the signs that I have told you, and all of these signs are with me. That's why in another riwayah. And by the way, the riwayahs that I'm quoting, Ibn Shahr Ashub has quoted in his book Al-Manaqib. Al-Manaqib is one of the book, also translated into Urdu, most likely translated in Persian too. And originally it's written in Arabic. What does Mawla say? Mawla says, Asa'u Musa indana, wa alwahu Musa indana, wa nahnu warathatun nabiyyin. That we are the one that had the tablet of Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. We are the one that have the stick of Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, the asa of Musa, through which he would perform miracles. And we are the one that are the successor of all the prophets that came before us. So all of the miracles that were given to the prophets before the prophet, till the time of the prophet, all of those miracles were with Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Second thing, and the third riwayah, then inshallah, I'm going to continue with the akhlaq part. Mawla wanted to show the capacity of his knowledge. What does Mawla says? Ilmuna ghabirin mazbur. Ghabir means something that has already happened. Mazbur means something that's going to happen in the future. Mawla is saying what? That I am someone, we the Ahlul Bayt are the people that have knowledge of the past, that have knowledge of the present, and that have knowledge of the future too. So alhamdulillah, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, when we say they are imams, we don't mean it that they are imam as someone who would research and extract the ruling based on their own ijtihad. No. There were imams before too, Malik ibn Anas, Ahmad bin Hanbal al-Shaybani, Abu Hanifa Nu'man bin Thabit, Sufyan al-Thawri, Amr ibn Dinar. All of these were around the time of Imam. These were the imams, or these were the scholars that used to extract their ruling doing their own ijtihad. But the knowledge of the imam is what? The truthful knowledge is ilmul waqi'i, something that is truthful, something which is transparent, and something which is divine. And that's why Mawla then explained the sources of his knowledge. What does he say? He says, وَنَقْتٌ فِي الْقُلُوبِ وَنَقْرٌ فِي الْأَسْمَاعِ. If you want to understand our sources of the knowledge, our source is divine. Something we are divinely inspired that comes right into our heart. And sometimes there's an angel that would whisper us the knowledge of Allah Almighty. That Mawla says, Inna indana al-jafr al-abiyad, Inna indana al-jafr al-ahmar, Inna indana mushafu Fatima, Inna indana al-jami'a alladhi fiha jami'u ma yahtaju ilayha an-nas. We are the one that has the red container. We are the one that has white container. Those are the container that had the belongings of the Prophet before them. We are the one that has the holy book of Sayyidah Zahra, Mushaf Fatima. Mushaf Fatima is that book that Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam would descend after the demise of the Prophet, and he would speak directly to Sayyidah Zahra. While he would speak directly to Sayyidah Zahra, and Sayyidah Zahra would reply him in the back, in return, Amir al-Mu'mineen used to sit and would record all the conversation that would take place. And whatever he recorded, it got recorded in a book which is called Mushaf of Fatima. Inshallah, one day we have time, we can talk about each and every topic in detail. Sometimes they accuse us, oh, you Shias, you Rawafid, you believe in tahrif of Quran because you have a different Quran than the Quran of the Muslims. Sometimes we ask, what is your proof? They say that because you believe in Mushaf of Fatima. Mushaf, like we Pakistani Indians, we don't have a problem. For us, Mushaf is a terminology, Mushaf, right? But you go to any other part of the world, they say Mushaf for Quran, right? Can I have the Mushaf? Means they want Quran. But in old days, anything that was under the two covers used to be called what? Mushaf. Manuscripts, right? All the pages that are gathered under two cover were called Mushaf. So any book was called Mushaf at that time. And what does Mawla said? And we also have the book Al-Jami'ah. Jami'ah, you can understand when I say it, Jami'ah means something that combines all the knowledge. And that's what the explanation Mawla said. Mawla said it contains all the knowledge that any person on this earth would ever need till day of judgment. Anything. So mashallah, these were the sources of the knowledge for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And by the way, these are not only riwayat that are exclusively quoted in one or two books. Go to Al-Kafi Kitab al-Hujjah, go to Basair al-Darajat, go to Dalail al-Imam of Tabari, go to other books of Sheikh Sudoq, Sheikh Mufid and other books. You would find all these things that I'm talking and explaining you about, all of them in details. And the scholars have written books only on one topic. Mushaf of Fatima, there's a book over 250 pages. There's a book on Al-Jafr al-Abiyaz, Jafr al-Ahmad, Al-Jami'ah, all of them combined separately in books. So even if I just talk about each and every book, that would require one majlis each at least, right? So mashallah, these were the sources of knowledge for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Now when we come to this, we realize that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were given really high status by Allah Almighty, and we don't need to give more introduction. I just wanted to quote some of the riwayah because of the barakah of the personality that we're talking about. I just wanted to quote some of his sayings so that we can understand which personality are we talking about. So in spite of all the things that were given to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, their ikhlaq was transparent, was something exemplary, was something that they wanted people to follow. And let me quote you the first riwayah, again from Al-Manaqib. There's a rawi, there's a narrator, his name goes as Ja'far bin Abi Aisha. You can probably understand that doesn't look like a really Shi'i name. Ja'far bin Abi Aisha. He says, بَعَثَ صَادِقْ غُلَامًا لَهُ فِي حَاجَةٍ إِلَى حَاجَةٍ. That Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam dispatched and sent one of his servants in order to complete a task, in order to do something. I want all of you to concentrate. Now, mashallah, most of you would be working, almost all of you would be working. Sometimes we are working under a manager, and sometimes we do have subordinates that are working under us. It might be one person that is working under us. It might be the new person that is just recently hired that we have to train. At the end of the day, he or she is a subordinate to you for those number of days, right? So we do come across situations in which we do have people, whether in our work, whether in our family, whether in our social circle, that are subordinate to us when it comes to our social position. Now see the way Imam alayhi salatu wasalam used to deal with the people that were subordinates, and they were not normal subordinates. When we talk about job, they're just working from 9 to 6. We're talking about slaves of that time. It's a topic, inshallah, if we can talk more about the way Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam used to treat their slaves. Maytham al-Tammar, who would not have heard about him. Maytham al-Tammar was also a slave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Likewise, there are so many other slaves, Kambar and other slaves, right? These were the slaves, but by God, I'm sitting on the minbar. If you ask them whether you want to be freed or whether you want to live under the mastery of Ahlul Bayt, they will say we prefer to live under the mastery of Ahlul Bayt because this gives us a spiritual position to And that is a source of pride for us in this dunya too. Right? So Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they used to treat their slaves, subordinates, with so much respect. So let me just quote this rawaya. The rawaya says Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam dispatched one of his slaves in order for him to complete a task. فَأَبْطَعَ عَنْهُ, he got late, he wasn't able to complete the task. فَخَرَجَ as-Sadiq فِي أَثَرِهِ, so Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he went behind him so that he can get hold of that person and ask him, why are you getting late? Till the time Mawla reached there, فَوَجَدَهُ نَائِمًا. How did Mawla saw him? Sleeping. Now imagine I have an assignment to complete. I have 3-4 people under me, and I want to get it done by the end of the day. And I give an assignment to one of my colleagues, one of my subordinates, and instead of working, he or she sleeps on his or her desk. What would be my reaction? At least I'll get really, really angry. Or at least I would show some sort of disappreciation for what just happened. But the riwayah says, Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, instead of waking him up, in old times when they used to wake up their slaves or the people, they would just not wake up. They would sometimes, do it in a really harsh way, because they were really, really people that had no social identity around the time when Imam alayhi salatu wasalam were dealing with the people. The riwayah says, as soon as Mawla saw him, فَجَلَسَ عِنْدَ رَأْسِهِ, Mawla, instead of deriding him, instead of criticizing him, Mawla said next to him, فَيُرَوِّحُهُ, Mawla started pelting his head. I can't think about a really better English word how to explain this, but Urdu word would be कि जैसे सलाना होता है ना, बच्चे को सला रहे होते हैं ताकि वो सोने को चला जाए. Mawla started doing that. Try to give him the comfort. The riwayah says that he suddenly wake up, and then he saw Imam next to him. فَلَمَّا إِنْتَبَهُ, as soon as he woke up, Mawla says, يَا أَيُّهَا الرَّجُلُ وَاللَّهِ مَا ذَلِكَ أَن تَنَامَ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ. What is this? You are sleeping both at the night time and at the daytime. لَكَ أَن تَنَامَ اللَّيْلِ, for you have to sleep at night. You do whatever things of comfort you want to do. وَلَنَا مِنْكَ النَّهَارِ, and yes, during the daytime, it is your responsibility to serve it. That's it. And the incident was closed there and then. See the respect, see the ikhlaq Imam was treating his subordinate with. See the way Imam dealt with the people with so much ikhlaq. Imam alayhi salatu wassalam was a person of authority, was someone that had 4,000 students listening and understanding and taking the lecture when Imam used to give majlis. But in spite of whatever social status he had, in spite of whatever Allah has given him, when it came to interact with the people, when it came to manifest his akhlaq, he was someone who was really, really exemplary. Let me just quote another riwayah. And this riwayah is quoted by Sheikh Tusi in his book Al-Amali. We do have different amaliyat. We have one written by Sayyid Murtada, we have one written by Sheikh Mufid, we have one written by Sayyid Sheikh Suduq, and there's one by Sheikh Tusi. So Sheikh Tusi is the one that's quoting it. Sheikh Tusi says that he quotes a riwayah, and this riwayah is quoted from whom? Malik ibn Anas. We all know Malik ibn Anas, right? The 4 famous Imam I was just mentioning. Abu Hanifa, the people who, Fiqh al-Hanfi, who do they follow? Abu Hanifa, Nu'man ibn Thabit. Where is he buried? Baghdad. Right? Today you go to Baghdad, you have Qadhimain and you have Azamiyya. Right? 2 neighborhoods, one has Shia majority and the other one is non-Shia majority. So the Azamiyya, still you go, you have the grave of Abu Hanifa there. Second one is Ahmad bin Hanbal, the Wahhabis, the Salafis, the Hanabila, they follow Ahmad bin Hanbal al-Shaybani. He is buried where? Again in Baghdad. Right, same Azamiyya. Azamiyya, by the way, has the grave of Abdul Qadir Jilani, Yarwi Wali Sarkar. You understand what I'm talking about, right? Same personality. The third one is Muhammad bin Idris al-Shafi'i. He's buried in Egypt, the fiqh al-Shafi'i. The fourth one is Malik ibn Anas. He's called what? Imam al-Madinah or Imam al-Hijaz, someone who was a really famous personality, and he is the first person to write a book on hadith when it comes to our Sunni brothers. One of the book he wrote is still present till this date. The name of the book is what? Al-Mu'atta. Right? Al-Mu'atta, when you go and you search it, it's translated into different languages too. Even in English, it's there. It's a book that he has written and he has collected the hadith. So Malik ibn Anas is the one that's quoting in. And see the way Malik ibn Anas introduced Imam. Malik said about Imam Sadiq, what did he say? كان رجلا لا يخلو من إحدى ثلاث خصال. That Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam was someone that you would consistently, you would always see him in one of the three states. What were those? إما قائما إما صائما وإما ذاكرا. You would see him either he's fasting, you would see him either he's worshipping Allah Almighty, or you would see him he's remembering Allah Almighty. وكان من الذين يخشون الله وهو السلام عليكم ورحمة الله صلوات على محمد وآل محمد आपके इजाज़त से اللهم صل على مالك بن أنس وكان من أكابر العباد وعظماء الزهاد الذين يخشون الله. That he was, Imam Sadiq was one of the most distinguishable, one of the most noteworthy worshippers of Allah Almighty, someone who had God-fearness within him. And then then Malik ibn Anas continued the narration and he says, وَكَانَ كَثِيرَ الْحَدِيثِ طَيَّبَ الْمُجَالِسَ كَثِيرَ الْفَوَائِدِ. He was someone that used to give long majalises, long gatherings when it came to dispatching the knowledge. He was someone, his majlis was always transparent. His majlis was something that when you would go from that majlis, you would have gained a lot of knowledge from the majlis. And then he mentions the way Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam used to respect Prophet. You know, sometimes when I'm talking about Qala Rasulullah, nothing changes in my expression. Nothing changes inside me. I'm just trying to do the duty that I'm supposed to. Qala Rasulullah, kada wa kada. Prophet said this and this. Nothing of my inside would change. Rather, you're thinking, oh, whatever you have memorized, are you saying it correctly or not? The respect element is not that much when speakers like us, when the public like us, are talking about the Prophet. But Malik ibn Anas says that when Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam says, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, اخضر لونه مرة وإصفر لونه مرة أخرى. That his face would change sometimes to green and sometimes his face would change to yellow. When would your face would turn yellow? When you're in extreme fear, isn't it? That's why we have this saying, "Inka chehra zard ho gaya." Zard matlab, what does it mean? When you get in an extreme situation, which is really fearful for you, and in that situation, the color of your skin changes, and it changes to yellow. So see the respect. When he would quote Prophet, he would have so much respect for the Holy Prophet that the color of his skin would change. And then the riwayah continues. وَلَقَدْ حَجَجْتُ مَعَهُ سَنَةً. And yes, there was 1 year I went with him to Hajj. And mashallah, the people are going to Hajj, they would understand Hajj is not the easiest of the ibadah, one of the most difficult of ibadah. So the riwayah says that I went with him to Hajj and we reach Miqat. Now I need to explain my youngsters what Miqat is. Miqat is a place where you would say talbiha and you would have the clothes that you're supposed to wear when you would go for Umrah or for Hajj. Those are the 5 places generally which are outside Mecca that you have to take the miqat from. Let's suppose if you're coming from Yemen, there's a place which is called Yalamlam. If you're coming, let's suppose from Iraq, there's a place called Wadi al-Aqiq. The third one is Qarnul Manazil. The fourth one is Masjidu al-Shajara, Dhul Halifa. When you're coming from Medina, right after Medina, there's a place which is called Dhul Halifa. There's a masjid there. And that masjid is called what? Masjidu Shajara. Right? So likewise, you have different other miqat too. So in one of these places, the last one is generally when people are coming from Jeddah, they go where? Juhfa. Juhfa is the same place which is really near to Ghadir. Right? That's why when you have this mentioning of Ghadir, you would come across a lot of speakers that when they talk about Ghadir, they also talk about Juhfa. So Juhfa was a place where people would go to to their lands where they were supposed to. So it was a more like an intersection point. So even as of to this date, when you go, it's a point which is a point of intersection where people would go to the different places where they came from. So Juhfa is the 5th place. So the riwayah says that Malik said that we went to go for a hajj and we reached the place of miqat. And at the miqat, you have to say talbiha. Talbiha is what? You have to show your love. You have to show to Allah that you are there to obey Him. You are there to get His favors. You are there to follow whatever commands He has asked you to follow. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Labbaik la sharika laka. Labbaik innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika laka. Labbaik. In Shia fiqh, generally you have to say labbaik at the end, but the Sunnis, they're done with la sharika lak. So, la sharika laka labbaik. So this is what you have to say in talbiha. So the riwayah says that when Mawla reached there, the people that were in the qafila, that were in the caravan, they started saying talbiha. We all know what talbiha is. They start saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Malik ibn Anas said that I saw Ja'far ibn Muhammad and he was not saying talbiha when we reached at the point of miqat. And I said, Yabna Rasulillah, la budda laka an taqul. O the son of the Prophet, it is mandatory on you, it is imperative for you to say talbiha. Unless or until you wouldn't say talbiha, we won't be able to move forward. And Riwayah says an ajib thing. Riwayah says that Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam was in such a situation that the horse that he was sitting at, the Riwayah says, فَكَادَ أَن يَخِرَّ مِنْ رَاحِلَتِهِ. That he was in such a situation of fear, he was in such a state of fear that it looks like that the animal that he was sitting at, Imam would fall from the horse that he was sitting. وَإِنْقَطَعَ صَوْتُهُ فِي حَلَكِهِ. And whenever Imam wanted to say talbiha, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, his voice would crack into his soul. He wasn't able to say talbiha the way it's supposed to be. Malik ibn Anas had that conversation. Imam replied to Malik ibn Anas. Imam said, Yabna Abi Amir, كيف أن أجسر أن أقول لبيك اللهم لبيك ويجيب ربي لا لبيك ولا سعديك. That, oh Malik ibn Anas, how do you think that I would say to Allah Almighty, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, that, oh Allah, I'm there for your service, oh Allah, I'm there to get your favors. And God forbid if Allah would reply me that you're not welcome and you would not get any of my favor. MashaAllah, people will be going to Hajj really soon, some of you, or people that would be going to Hajj that you might know. You can maybe give this riwayah as a tabarruk, something that they can reflect around. It's not so easy. When we go for Hajj, our primary concern is to make sure that we don't have any kafara wajib on us. That's it. Bakara wajib na ho jaye. Right? That's the most important concern that we have. But Hajj is more than just getting kafara wajib on you. It's just more than following some rituals. The actual spirit of Hajj is something deeper. Inshallah, we can talk about it one more day. So, see the ikhlaq of Mawla. See the virtue of Mawla. The way Mawla had fear of Allah Almighty. And when we have this conversation about labbaik and sa'adaik, I want to call one of a beautiful riwayah. And the riwayah is a conversation that took place between the Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, whatever used to happen between Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's really deep. But something we can get a little bit tidbits, a little bit conversation that they would have. One day, Prophet said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, ala ubashiruka? Oh Ali, shouldn't I tell you something good? Shouldn't I give you good news? See the respect of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Mawla just didn't say, Na'am, it's okay, yeah, you can tell me. Mawla says, no, that's not what Mawla replied. Mawla says, Bi abi anta wa ummi lam tazal mubashiran bi kulli khair ya Rasulallah. That, O Prophet, may my mother, may my father be ransomed to you, and you have always been a giver of a good news. O the Prophet of Allah. Prophet says, أخبرني جاءني جبرائيل وأخبرني الخبر آنفا. That Jibreel just descended from the skies and he gave me a report, Hadith al-Qudsi. He told me something, a message from Allah, which is not part of Quran, but again it's a message of Allah. So Mawla said, Ya Rasulullah, please tell me what Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam said. To which, remember labbaik and sa'adaik. Remember these two words. The riwayah says that Jibreel told me, Inna rajulan min ummati idha salla alayya wa atba'a bis salati alayya ahli bayti futihat lahu abwabus sama. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. That anyone who sends salawat on me from my nation, from my ummah, and he follows that salawat on me also on my holy progeny, then the skies would open the door of rahmah for him. وَصَلَّتْ عَلَيْهِ الْمَلَائِكَ سَبْعُونَ صَلَاةً. And not only that, but also angels would open 70 doors of mercy for him. وَأَنَّهُ حَتًّا لِلذَّنْبِ كَمَا تَحَاتَتْ الْوَرَقُ مِنَ الشَّجَرَةِ. And it is a source that would remove your sins. The way the leaves would leave tree, the same way your sins would leave you if you would send salawat on Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وَنَادَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. And Allah would say all the way from the heavens. That's my way of saying Allah is not located at heaven. That's not our belief. But just for you to understand, Allah would say, what does Allah would say? Labbaika wa sa'adaik. That, oh my person, whatever act of worship you have done, it is accepted and you will be given all the favors. Ya malaikati. That, oh my malaika, you have given them 70 doors of mercy. Wa inni. And I am the one that will give my servants 700 doors of mercy. And the riwayah continues. The riwayah says, وَإِذَا إِنَّا رَجُلًا مِّنْ أُمَّتِي يصلي علي ولم يتبع بالصلاة علي أهل بيتي نادى الله عز وجل لا لبيك ولا سعدي. That if anyone from my ummah would send salawat only on me and would not send salawat on my holy progeny, then Allah would say that you are not welcome and none of your worship is accepted, and there will be an impediment between him and the doors of the mercy in the sky. And the riwayah says that his wishes and his prayers would not be accepted hatta yulhika bin nabiyyi itratahu, and his wishes would not be accepted unless or until he would send salawat both on the Prophet and also his holy family. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Something that we want to reflect around, something that we can take as a lesson. One last thing, and inshallah with this we'll go to the musibah part. The reason I took a little bit more time, I was told 8:40, 8:45 is good, so inshallah I'll try to wrap up before inshallah around 8:40. One of the riwayah that's quoted is from Sufyan al-Thawri. Sufyan al-Thawri, someone who didn't believe in the message of Ahlul Bayt, someone who didn't believe in the imamat of Ahlul Bayt. He said that he came to meet Imam Sadiq one day and he saw Imam with change expression. متغير اللون. The Rawai said, he asked Mawla, what just happened? Why the color of your face is changed? He says, إني نهيتهم أن يصعدوا فوق البيت. I have asked them not to go on the top of the roof. And one of the slave girl that used to take care of one of my kid, she went on to the top of the roof. And when she went on the top of the room, فَلَمَّا بَصُرَتْ بِي ارتعدت وتحيرت وسقط الصبي من عندها إلى الأرض فمات. That when she saw me from the top, and when she saw me coming, and when she was reminded that she should not have gone to the roof, she got scared, she got confused, and as soon as she got confused, the baby of Imam Sadiq, who was in her hand, it got slipped and it got all the way to the floor and he died eventually. Then Mawla said something really important. Mawla says, Ya Sufyan, لا تغير لوني بموت الصبي. Oh Sufyan, don't think that the color of my skin or my face is changed because I saw my son dying in front of me. إنما تغير لوني لما أدخلت في قلبها من الرعب. The reason the color of my skin is changed because she got scared when she looked at me. And since she had an element of fear because she looked at me, this is something that has changed the color of my skin. Then Mawla had a conversation with her. Mawla said 2 lines to her. Anti hurwatun liwajhillah. You are free for the sake of Allah. La ba'si alayki. Mawla said 2 times, there's no harm over you. Whatever happened with mistake. There's nothing on you, and I have freed you for the sake of Allah. I don't know how would I have reacted if anyone even would have done anything wrong with my baby, let alone baby dying right in front of you. You know, when we reflect upon this incident, my heart says that when the situation would have got diffused and when that slave girl would have left the place, when Imam would have seen his little baby dying in front of him, Imam would have remembered Karbala. You know, there was another 6 months old. He used to be called what? Aliul Asghar or Abdullah Radhi'. Someone that Imam Sadiq, someone that the Sayyid al-Shuhada brought him, and he introduced him to the army of opponents. And some of the khutbah, they say that Imam had a conversation with the army. Imam said that if you don't have any mercy over me, at least have mercy for this 6 whole month. He has not drank milk for 3 days. He is really, really thirsty. And just to have the hujjah done on them, Mawla showed Aliyun al-Asghar to everyone that was standing right in front of Mawla. The riwayah said that as soon as the people started looking Aliyun al-Asghar, they started crying, and they cried so profusely that they came to Umar ibn Sa'ad. They said that we have conflict, we have the dushmani with Sayyid al-Shuhada, but we don't have anything against this 6 old man. Give him some water. The riwayah says at that moment Umar ibn Sa'ad says, Ya Hurmala, Ya Hurmala, Ya Hurmala, Iqta' niza' al-qawm. Oh Hurmala, take care after whatever the conflict is taking place in my army. Hurmala took an arrow. He just didn't took a normal arrow. He took an arrow that used to slaughter a horse, that used to slaughter an animal. That arrow was taken and was being pointed out towards Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. And Hurmila, when he shooted that arrow, Ali al-Asghar started fighting, and he raised up and he took the arrow in his little leg. But I would say, my heart says that Aliun al-Asghar would have looked to Sayyid al-Shuhada. Mawla, Mawla, I tried to stop this arrow coming to you, but my neck was small, the size of the arrow was bigger. Mawla, this is the way, this is the way your 6-month baby was slaughtered. My heart goes back to Imam Sadiq, Sayyida Humayda, who is mother of Imam Kazim, who is also the wife of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. The mother of Imam Kazim is telling this incident. She says that when Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam was at the end of his life, he gathered all of his family members, and while she was narrating the incident, she started crying. And not only she started crying, but also Abu Basir, who is narrating this incident, started crying. I say to Sayyida Humayda, oh Sayyida Humayda, if we would have been there, we would have cried with you. But I say sincerely that when you were quoting this incident, Imam Sadiq was with his family members. Imam Sadiq was with his close companions. Let's go back to Karbala. When Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam is on to the place of Karbala, there is no one beside him. Or should I change my words? Someone came from Medina and would be screaming, oh Shimr, don't kill me. Oh Shimr, don't kill my son. عزاداروں آگے روایت بڑھتی ہے. روایت کے جملے یہ ہیں, امام صادق علیہ السلام امام کاظم کو کہتے ہیں, اے بیٹا میں اس دنیا کو چھوڑ کے جا رہا ہوں, اور ہاں بیٹا جب میں اس دنیا کو چھوڑ کے جاؤں تو آپ میرے غسل کی ذمہ داری لیجئے گا, میرے حنوط کی ذمہ داری آپ پر ہے, میرے دفن کی ذمہ داری آپ پر ہے. میں کیسے مصیبت امام بیان کروں. ابو جعفر منصور نے ایک دفعہ پہلے بھی آپ کے گھر پر حملہ کیا تھا. عزاداروں ذاکرین پڑھتے ہیں, جب گھر پر حملہ ہوا ہے نا, امام زاروں قطار رونے لگے. جب ایک دفعہ شاید کسی نے وجہ پوچھی ہو, امام نے کہا ہو, ارے دیکھنے والے دیکھتے نہیں, جب میرے گھر پہ حملہ ہوا میرے بچے جلے ہوئے گھر سے جا رہے تھے, میرے گھر کی بیویاں گھر سے ایک دفعہ کوچ کر رہی تھی, لیکن ہائے رے میری پھپھی زینب, ہائے رے میری پھپھی ام کلثوم, کبھی ایک خیمے سے دوسرے خیمے, کبھی دوسرے سے تیسرے. عزاداروں امام کو انگوروں میں زہر دیا جاتا ہے, بس آج کے دن آپ کا امام آپ سے رخصت ہوتا ہے. ہم تعزیت دیتے ہیں امام زمانہ کو, ہم تعزیت دیتے ہیں امام کاظم کو. وا جعفرہ, وا امامہ, وا صادقہ. مولا کی وصیت تھی کہ ان کے غسل کی, ان کی تدفین کی ذمہ داری امام کاظم لیتے, لیکن میں دست بستہ عرض کرتا ہوں, مولا آپ ہی کے جد کا ایک لاش ایسا بھی تھا جس کو کربلا کے چٹیل میدان میں بے گور و کفن رکھ دیا گیا, اور ایک دفعہ ایسے پامال کیا جاتا ہے کہ سیدھے ہاتھ کے گھوڑے الٹے ہاتھ جاتے ہیں, الٹے ہاتھ کے گھوڑے سیدھے ہاتھ جاتے ہیں. حسین کا جسم سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين, ماتم امام الصادق, يا حسين.
Ya Hussein, Ya
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. As the Sayyid had mentioned, there's a riwayah in Al-Kafi where in the Mawlid, where the Shaykh Qulaini alayhi rahmah mentions, when he describes the life of the Imam, he mentions that Mansur, how he had ordered his governor to go and burn the house of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and how he exited the house and how he saw those children. And as the Sayyid mentioned, what have gone through the thoughts of the Imam, be it where the people had gathered to burn the door of Zahra, where those young children in Karbala. گھر جلایا گیا ہے جعفر کا، گھر جلایا گیا ہے جعفر کا، جیسے زہرا کا در جلایا تھا، گھر جلایا گیا ہے جعفر کا، گھر جلایا جعفر کا، گھر جلایا گیا جعفر کا، جیسے زہرا کا در جلایا تھا، گھر جلایا گیا جعفر کا، گھر جلایا گیا کا، یاد آنے لگی شب عاشور، یاد آنے لگی شب عاشور، یاد آنے لگی شب عاشور، پھر مدینہ بنا ہے کرب و بلا، گھر جلایا گیا جعفر کا، گھر جلایا جعفر کا، جیسے زہرا کا در جلایا تھا، گھر جلایا کا، گھر جلایا کا، گھر میں سیدانیاں بھی تھیں موجود، گھر بھی سیدانیاں بھی تھیں موجود، پھر وہ منظر تھا شام غربت کا، گھر جلایا گیا گھر جلایا جعفر کا، جیسے زہرا کا گھر جلایا تھا، گھر جلایا کا، گھر جلایا کیوں غریبوں کا گھر جلاتے ہو، کیوں غریبوں کا گھر جلاتے ہو، کیا مسلمان نہیں ہے خوف خدا، کیوں جلایا ہے جعفر کا، گھر جلایا کا، گھر جلایا جعفر کا. And as the Masa'ib of Sayyid al-Shuhada were mentioned, then indeed the son of Zahra was on the plains of Karbala, and how his body was trampled by these horses. Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Zahra ka ladla be jurm o be khata, hai mara gaya, hai mara gaya, ye Zainab ka baradar اتری ہے جس کی چادر ہوئے اکبر ذبح اصغر کو حرام ہے بپا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یہ لاش بے کفن ہے صحرا میں بے دفن ہے بنا الہ الہ کہنے لگا خدا مظلوم شکریہ مظلوم شکریہ تو رہبر تو صابر کے سجدے میں تیرے تو احمد کا وہ دلبر جو ہے دین کی بقا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا 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 حسین حسین یا 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 حسین
یا آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں میرے لاڈلے کہاں ہو میرے لاڈلے کہاں ہو سینے تمہیں لگاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں بیٹا تمہارا قاتل میرے سامنے کھڑا ہے جانے کیوں ہنس رہا ہے چادر بھی لٹ چکی ہے منہ کس طرح چھپاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں تیرے جھولے کو سکینہ رو رو کے چومتی ہے تجھے گھر میں ڈھونڈتی ہے تیری موت کی خبر میں کیسے اسے سناؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں میری جان جا رہی ہے یہ سوچ سوچ اصغر اس پھول سے گلے پر یہ تیر کیسے جھیلا بہنوں کو کیا بتاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں نیزے سے گر गिर रहा है नन्ना सा सर तुम्हारा, दिल रोता है हमारा। मेरे हाथ तो बंधे हैं, सर किस तरह उठाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। झूले के साथ बेटा मेरे हाथ जल गए हैं, जालिम भी हंस रहे हैं। तेरी आखिरी निशानी है, किस तरह बचाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ। या हुसैन, 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 या हुसैन। मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
توجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا باعث الهدى، السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله، السلام عليك يا نور عرش الله، السلام على محمد بن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وآله، السلام على ابنتك فاطمة الزهراء، السلام على ابن عمك أمير المؤمنين، السلام على سبطيك الحسن والحسين، وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر الأحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى السلام على أخت الحسين زينب الكبرى، السلام على أم كلثوم ورقية، السلام على سكينة الحسين، السلام عليك يا باب الحوائج يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم جميع شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس أنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توس، السلام عليك وعلى آبائك السبعة وأبنائك الأربعة وعلى أختك فاطمة المعصومة جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على الحجة ابن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن وخليفة الرحمن، إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر، وجعلنا من عوانك وأنصارك واللائزين تحت لوائك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله